What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Mir, aka Zapped, back at you with another video. And I've got some news. I recently have been let go from Best Buy on positive terms. So here's a brand new, kind of redone, a little bit unfiltered version of the horrors of retail video I did previously. As you may know, that video kind of danced the line, in my opinion, of what I was allowed to say and versus stuff I didn't want to. But now that I don't work for the company, it doesn't really matter. I can just air stuff out. I'm chilling. But I'm not the type of guy to go like fully like downplay, down talk everything. I'm just going to give you more information on the company and stuff that I wish I learned about it before I even started, stuff that people that work at Best Buy with me and who inspire or want to work at Best Buy should know before they jump in. For some background, I worked at Best Buy from April 2023 to now, January 2026. And the main reason I got into Best Buy is because when I was younger, I loved going to Best Buy with my grandpa, and he was always getting games and movies, picking them up, and then we'd go home and watch them. So that always was like a good connotation with Best Buy. It was always, oh, we're getting something new, we're getting something cool. However, I wish I would have known these things far, far before my perception of them got a little bit skewed whilst I was working with them. So stay tuned. Make sure to please like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get into the video. So when I originally thought Best Buy was going to be a sales job with retail aspects, man, I was completely wrong. It was a complete 180. It was 90% retail, 9% dumbass customer questions, and then about one, if I'm lucky, 2% true, what I would consider true sales. What I mean by that is actually like having a conversation with the person, asking what they wanted that day, what they were looking to get done, so on and so forth, and then selling it to them, letting them know, hey, look, given your needs, I think you should go with this product, something like that. But oftentimes, at least in my early days, I was dealing with that 9%, dealing with customer service questions. Typically, a lot of those were simple returns or my purchase isn't quite right. Can I return or exchange it? Most of the time, that other, I don't know, if we were to split it 50-50, that other 50% was incredibly irritating problems that were dealt by our own overseas employees. And for those of you that don't know, a lot of big companies outsource labor, utilities, whatever, to countries that they won't have to pay those employers nearly as much as U.S. employers. So typically and unfortunately, it was a lot of Indian uh, workers, which, creates its own little dilemma. But that was probably the most annoying thing about the job. I mean, I can kind of get through the retail BS, but those customer service problems, mind boggling. You know, and I thought, creating bonds with customers and teaching them new products and selling them was fun, quite frankly, and helping me become more of a salesperson, more rounded, more anything, honestly, than actually what it was. But I realized early on, it doesn't matter if I sell $10,000 of high end equipment, TVs, whatever, or a piece of gum. They just want a credit card and a subscription. Best Buy has two different types of subscriptions. I'm not really going to get into that, but as long as I sold that piece of gum or $10,000 without one of those two things that I previously just mentioned, it really meant jack all, honestly. And that's not what I want. You know, as a salesperson, I want, oh, look, you did really good. You brought in the company this amount of dollars. Cool. That's great. Early on, that was great. More I worked there, the quicker I learned that's not, I won't say not what they want, because basic business dictates that you need sales and income and revenue to keep it going. But a lot of my managers couldn't give less of a, couldn't care less about how much I sold. They just wanted that card or that subscription. And it made me, I wouldn't say, yeah, I would say early on, it made me feel like a failure if I didn't get that card or that subscription. But later on, I realized, look, I'm doing good. Why am I getting like downplayed or condemned for statistically doing good? So on the flip side of that, if I'm doing statistically bad but still get this card, will that mean anything? Doesn't matter. You can't ever really have your cake and eat it too. You can't ever really appease people that can't really dictate what goals they have. Because a lot of times, managers at the retail level have bosses and bigger bosses above them. And, you know, everyone's got a role to play in a corporation as big as Best Buy, Target, Amazon, whatever. But Best Buy in particular kind of skews it, I'd say, because of what their goals are. So, yeah, that was a little brief rundown of sales. Let's get into commission and how that all worked. Long story short, there was no commission. It's non-existent for sales advisors. And there were so many times I would help customers and they'd ask me, do you make commission? Oh, you should make commission. Oh, they should pay you commission. And not zero, zero. Unless, hold on, you did a phone activation and you're thinking, oh, okay, so it's not zero. Wrong. A, phone activations are pretty few and far between. And B, they're the most complicated thing possible in sales as a whole at Best Buy. Not going to run down how to do a sales activation or phone activation, excuse me. But think of, I don't know, the longest process. Think of like a DMV and just getting all of that information processed and paid out and whatnot. Think about like that typical, you have to wait in line behind like 5 people, but it takes an hour. Think that, but for a phone. And that's it. And honestly, the only people that made commission were sales designers, slightly different than sales advisors, and technically managers. Now, let me explain this. Sales designers typically are people that go into people's homes looking to get a whole home theater, for example. They make commission off of the products that they sell. So A, they will sell you products that makes them bigger chunks of money, and B, they have direct access to these customers that are spending a lot far before me, regular sales advisor, or anyone else could get to them before they got in store or did it online. Now, once again, relatively smart, but on the counter of that, whenever one of those high value customers came into store, and let's say I was working with them and we are going through the lists, they want this TV, these speakers, or maybe they're doing a projector, whatever. I could work with them, do the whole transaction, and if a designer comes in, they could come in, throw their credentials on to my sale, and then make profit off of it. Maybe they spot me and are like, oh yeah, actually you should go with this speaker, or oh yeah, you should go with this. One or two things, that's enough for them to put on their credentials, and it goes to their numbers, their commission. Me, who did all that work and I'd say created a base level bond with this customer, I didn't get anything. And those are typically, those same customers are the ones asking me if I make commission, and which I tell them, nope. Thanks for visiting Best Buy though. But honestly, it's a dog eat dog world in sales in general. I, oddly enough, would be okay if a sale like that came in where I was working with them. Maybe it wasn't working out, or I didn't have complete oversight of what they completely needed. Someone comes in, helps them, makes it better. That'd be relatively reasonable. Typically doesn't happen in regards to Best Buy. So, yeah. Long story short, commission absolutely zero. Now, back about like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, somewhere 10 to 20 years ago, Best Buy sales advisors like myself would have made commission. They switched around from that business model because predatory sales, blah, blah, blah. But there's so many people that ask me, you should make commission, you should make commission, you should make commission. So how really predatory really was it back then? Or was it just a way to, save a little bit of money for other people? Got to really think about that. But that's commission at Best Buy. Let's get into what I previously mentioned, credit cards and the membership subscriptions. So, with credit cards and memberships, quite frankly, I was always pressured to get a customer credit card regardless of the purchase, which is point blank stupid considering our card is kind of terrible in mainstream credit cards. But there's a little caveat. We do have a in-store card. That one a little more contained on the A, purchases, and B, ability to ruin your credit history and credit score as a whole. So let's get into it. A lot of people see zero financing or 5% back or 10% back, sometimes even 15% back, which honestly kind of just shows that they can easily A, manipulate it whenever they want, and B, that they're greedy and or needy. Now, if you sign up for this card, the base level requirements are quite simple, but not all people really need this card, because if you think about it, the only things you can really buy if you got the in-store card would be stuff at Best Buy. And I've seen people use it in good ways and I've seen people use it in bad ways. I've had plenty of customers mad at me personally because of their credit card, or because they missed one payment, were doing good, and all that interest goes right back. It's not a true 0% financing. It's just deferred until the very end, or rather when you pay it off, which a lot of people don't understand. Now, can I completely blame Best Buy for that? No, because there is legalities. You do get a email and paper copy, typically, if not both, one or the other, that gives the complete terms and conditions of that card that people don't read. But if you make it so simple and make it so inviting, and then make it so much what would the word be, shitty, um, people are gonna realize within time that they don't need the card. And that happened plenty of times where I'd get a card, the customer would blatantly tell me, oh yeah, I'm probably going to use this once or twice, and then close it out. And my managers were okay with that, because this is the little crown jewel. They get bonuses off of that. Managers make bonuses off of my work. So that's another person making money off of my work. Great. But I don't know what the exact numbers are, quarterly, but however many Best Buy applications and people that get it, the card, excuse me, the managers make bonuses quarterly off of that. Now, all that is to say is that is probably why I'm getting pressured into getting a credit card off of a simple mouse, or maybe even a controller or something like that. Purchases that most people, A, already know that they can easily purchase, or B, don't need financing or can't even be financed. Now, certain phones like phones, game console, big ticket items are reasonable to finance, but, at least myself, I have only ever financed one thing, and that was my car. And everyone's had different points in their credit, and I'm incredibly fortunate that I've only had to finance that. But you got to really think, as a customer at least, do I really need this? Because if I do miss one payment, and it couldn't be possibly not even my own fault, you can set this card on auto pay like all other cards, and if it misses for whatever reason, something that's typically within your control, all that interest goes back onto you, bumps down your credit score, creates much more hassle and issues than benefits. You know, that's just, great. The membership is like any other membership, quite frankly. You get special promos. You get to know when certain items come to the store before they street release, stuff like that. The membership isn't too bad, honestly. I was a lot less disgusted with myself when I got a membership in comparison to a card, because the membership is just a yearly fee, either about like $90 or $50, and it's a one-off thing. You don't gotta think about it for a year. If you shop at Best Buy relatively frequently, it's good. One offers protection plans, one offers protection plans and membership pricing, excuse me, and one just offers membership pricing. And that's pretty simple. The only little caveat I have to that is we're never allowed to cancel it in store. Now, that's not to say that I haven't, but given certain situations, one being a widow, like a month ago, lost their husband, and she obviously was like closing out all of his stuff and getting all of that unfortunate paperwork and whatnot, and she gets a bill of $90 from nowhere, and it was just hitting her, hitting her, hitting her, and she was calling our store where she wasn't actually calling our store because you can't do that. So she was calling people overseas that didn't understand that she just wanted to cancel it out, and she was quite frustrated with me because I originally told her we cannot. Then, understanding the situation, I was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna do it." I didn't necessarily ask for a manager approval or anything like that because, I mean, who's gonna say no? You've got to go back to those same annoying people that you've been calling and cancel the membership that way. That's just not right. Now, that's few and far between. Although in my few years of working at Best Buy, it happened a little bit more frequently than you would think. But that is the only time I've personally canceled a membership. And typically, I get a conversation, I get pulled over to the side by a manager like, why'd you cancel that? Why do that? Why? You're supposed to tell them to call and then they can do it because it goes onto their numbers, yada, yada, yada. And then I just sit there with a blank face like, you want me to tell a widow that has done exactly that to do it again and expect a different result? Let's insanity? Question mark. Like, let's think about that. Most managers didn't have a problem with that once I explained the situation. There was a few that were like, no, you're still supposed to do that. And to those managers, I say, there's a special place for you, and that's where I'll keep it. Next part. Now, in this point of the video, you're probably thinking, oh, Mir must have absolutely just hated Best Buy. And that's not completely wrong, but not completely right either. I oftentimes had a good work group, people that I consider at least like work friends, a few that are now like actual friends. And those experiences are really nice. I think Best Buy as a whole does really well with cultivating a whole bunch of people that at least not like me, that are geeks, nerds, whatever, or at least highly intelligent in random electronics, comparatively to the people that we were helping. And honestly, a lot of the people in Best Buy were floating around the same age as me. I started this job at 19. I'm 21 right now, so about like, I mean, obviously the lowest you can go is 16, but about like, I don't know, 16 to like mid to early 20s was most of the workforce. Now, obviously, managers were older than that. And then you get those few apples that were like 40 at the same job position as me. And, you know, like I said before, everyone's got a different situation, but at some point you just gotta get the hell up out of there, I feel like. I don't know. We're not going to dive too deep into that or go too far into them because they're good people. They've got their own things going on. But yeah, workforce is overall really well. People that I considered hanging out with, not on a daily basis, but like a routine basis per se, and overall really nice. People that kind of shaped how I saw Best Buy early on, and as weird as it is to say, I'm thankful for them because they quickly taught me how to do stuff that Best Buy just thought I would know how to do. Because Best Buy doesn't really train you. For the first about week that you're working there, you're just watching videos. Now, some people learn really well with that, But when those videos are outdated and some of those videos are going on damn near 10 years of age, they're not really all that good. And outdated information for a constantly revolving tech retail company kind of goes opposite ways, in my opinion. And, you know, I just don't think Best Buy as a starting week knows what to really even do with itself. At least the Best Buy I started at didn't. And yeah, plain and simple, they just kind of fell flat on their face with what they were telling me I would do versus what I actually did. And honestly, if long story short, I worked at two Best Buys, one in my hometown and then one in my college town. Two completely different, way off styles of sales. And their biggest store is in my college town of Fort Collins. It was more specialized up there, and I feel like that created I'm going in knowing what I'm going to do versus I'm going to go into my hometown store and kind of just have to be on my toes the whole day because I might have to go to customer service or I might sell, excuse me. And I didn't really know. Versus in Fort Collins, I always knew I'm just going to be a salesperson. Maybe help out with customer service if it's overpacked, but that's about it. And I appreciated that. So, my final statement is that Best Buy as a job does have some merit and can instill some skills that can be carried out in other jobs or even in your life. Being able to solve problems without necessarily knowing the full scope of what's happening is a huge advantage, as well as something that I feel like many people kind of need, regardless, like I said, in life or in their career, as well as being able to communicate with another person and make a solution that is favorable for all parties. All in all, I would just say be careful. You got to be very diligent on what you want on both sides as a worker and a customer when you go into Best Buy because it can be a little fishy to say the least. But yep, that is going to be Zap Sunday. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We got some good videos coming up these next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. Later.